Hi, you're watching Lizzie in the Loop, and this is episode 2, Knits and Pearls of Wisdom. Today, I'll be looping you in on the process of how to knit a super simple scarf in stockinette pattern. In order to complete this project, you will need 2 items, yarn and knitting needles. Really, any type of yarn or any size needles would work, but I'm using very thick yarn and very large size 17 needles so that you can easily see what I'm doing. Now, in order to complete a stockinette pattern, you need to learn how to do 2 types of stitches, a knit stitch and a purl stitch, because you'll be knitting one row and then purling a row, and then knitting and purling and so on until you're done. See what I mean? Simple. Now, the first step in knitting we covered in episode 1, Castaway, which is when I showed you how to make a slip knot and to cast on your stitches. When you cast on your stitches, you basically put on your first row of yarn loops. Now, in order to complete our super simple scarf today, I have already casted on 15 stitches, and now I'm going to show you how to knit those stitches. Okay, so you're going to start by making sure that the needle with your stitches is in your left hand and your free needle is in your right hand. And what you're going to do is you're going to take that right needle and you're going to slide it under that first loop on your left needle so that your needles form a nice X. And then you're going to take your yarn and you're going to wrap it counterclockwise so that the yarn is between the 2 needles and kind of forms a little X here in the front. I'm going to put my right forefinger on that junction and my left forefinger on my right needle, and I'm just going to push it down so that that right needle is sliding along the other and picking up that new loop that I've formed. And now I've got it my X. This time note though that my right needle is on top. And then I'm going to lift off the old loop by sliding that right needle along the left loop. And now, as you can see, the stitch is on my right needle. Let's try that again. So I take my right needle, I pick up that first loop on my left needle, I wrap my yarn counterclockwise, I brace the junction with my right finger, use my left forefinger to slide that right needle down, making sure to grab my new loop. I form an X, and then I slide that old loop off the needle. And now I have completed 2 knit stitches, and I can just go ahead and knit the rest of my row. So you have completed your first knit row, and now we're going to do our first purl row. Now, once again, I have all the needle with all the stitches in my left hand and my free needle in my right hand. This time though, I'm going to make sure that my yarn is at the front of my project, not the back, and I'm going to be picking up stitches from the front, not the back. Okay, so I'm going to take my right needle and I'm going to pick up, slide that right needle under that first loop so that I've made an X. Notice how my needles are positioned so that my right needle is on top of my left needle this time. I'm going to take my yarn, I'm going to do that counterclockwise loop, but again in front, and then I'm going to slide my needle. See, there's my new loop, and I'm going to slide it so that I've pulled the new loop out from under the old loop. And now my needles are crossed with my right and back, and I'm just going to simply lift that old loop off. And now my stitch is on my right needle. Let's see another one. Again, I take that right needle, I pick up the stitch, tuck it under that first loop, right, so that my right needle's on top, mate with my X, wrap my yarn counterclockwise around the right needle, pull that loop, that new loop, through the old one, and then slide that old stitch off. And now I've got 2 nice purl stitches. And now I'm just going to continue that purl row. So you have now knitted a row and purled a row. And what you're going to do is you're going to keep doing that same thing, knitting a row, purling a row, knitting a row, purling a row, until your scarf reaches your desired length or you've just had enough. And then you will bind off your work. Now you can watch episode 3, The Ties That Bind, to get some really helpful tips about how to bind off. But in the meantime, I hope that you enjoy these knits and pearls of wisdom as you knit your super simple scarf.